Oba Femi is officially headed to the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, but at the same time, he keeps calling out the beast, Brock Lesnar. How is WWE going to be able to do both? Will WWE do both? We're going to talk about that on today's episode. And on the other side of that tournament, we have Jey Uso and Javon Evans. Who will advance to meet Oba Femi in the finals? We are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about who should advance to meet him in the finals and why they should advance. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns continues to rebuild the bloodline, and it seems as if the Usos are slowly starting to take a back seat to the newcomer, Jacob Fatu. Where is WWE headed with the storyline? Where do I think they're going to head with this storyline? And is it all going to be worth it in the end? We're going to talk about it. On top of that, Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn, one of WWE's lifelong friendships, now slowly starting to turn into a little rivalry. We're going to talk about what happened on SmackDown and how Gunther's involvement going into this Friday's championship match on SmackDown, with Sami Zayn being the special guest referee, is eventually going to turn into a triple threat match at Night of Champions. Who then deserves to walk out as champion? On the Forbidden Door side, Zack Sabre Jr. and Kenny Omega are officially locked in for a match, and Will Ospreay is one win away from his dream at Wembley Stadium for the AEW World title. But first, he has to run through Swerve Strickland. Those two matches speak volumes without saying a word. We also got some news on CM Punk, the current state of where his head's at, where his contract is at, why these rumors and speculation, you can't buy into him. We're going to talk about all of that, what his SummerSlam plans might look like, as well as Team USA advancing in the FIFA World Cup and the New York Knicks ending a 53-year-long drought to finally become champions. We got a loaded show here today, so let's get into it.
Summon the Spectre.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to episode 22 of the SpectreVerse Podcast. I'm your host, JariSpectre, and we got a loaded show for you guys today. We're going to talk everything WWE and AEW with a little hint of sports at the end. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Turn on the bell for notifications. Go ahead and follow me on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at JariSpectre. And also follow the SpectreVerse page on Facebook as well at the SpectreVerse. And without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump in to what happened on Monday with Monday Night Raw. The show opened up with Roman Reigns and the Usos making their way to the ring. Roman says to acknowledge him as the tribal chief and as the heavyweight champion. He then bigs up both Jimmy and Jey and tells the crowd to acknowledge them as well. And then he said there is one person that we have yet to acknowledge, and that is Jacob Fatu. At this point, Jimmy and Jey are getting a little irritated with Roman to pretty much be like, hey, he needs to acknowledge us. We don't need to acknowledge him. And Roman then says, do we have a problem with the twins? And Jacob Fatu says, I don't acknowledge them. I don't listen to them. I only acknowledge you as the OTC. Roman then goes and grabs out of this box this wooden ulafala, and he says, listen here, Jacob. When the Wild Samoans were running the territories, that was the bloodline. When Rikishi was shaking his ass, that was the bloodline. When Yokozuna was the heavyweight champ, that was the bloodline. When Umaga was running Rampage on Raw and in WrestleMania, that was the bloodline. He did not mention The Rock. I want to make that very, very clear. He did not mention Dwayne, and I think that was done on purpose just for the idea if there is a future match between Roman and Rock. Obviously, I know for a fact that it will eventually come, but I think that was done by design. I think WWE was smart to not throw The Rock's name in there, because then it defeats the purpose of a future match. You know what I mean? So Roman says, the bloodline has lasted decades, from generation to generation. And he said, pretty much, one day, my son will be teaming with your son, and that will be the bloodline. The bloodline will always be around long after we're gone. And now it is time to acknowledge you. And so Roman puts this wooden Ulafala onto Jacob Fatu, and I remember just watching it, and all I could see was Jey Uso just pacing back and forth, and he was pissed. He was pissed because, like we all know, Jey Uso is the right-hand man. But Roman has shown a lot of favoritism towards Jacob ever since he beat him back at Backlash, and now he's officially a part of the bloodline. Jey specifically has felt very much a type of way about all of it. And he pretty much, like I said, he thinks it's favoritism. And he's just like, they should be acknowledging him as the right-hand man, not Jacob. Jacob's not the right-hand man, but yet he's being treated better than the right-hand man. So I feel like eventually, which I know WWE is probably going to go this route, is that Jey Uso feels as if he is being overlooked and people should be giving him the attention now. And now that all of it is locked up on Jacob Fatu, he feels a type of way. And so eventually all of them put the ones up in the air. And as they're leaving, there's a comedian in the crowd, Eric Andre, I believe. I've seen him. I've seen his face. I have not actually watched any of his stuff other than a few things here and there that I see online. But I know he's in a movie with, I think it's John Cena that's coming out on Netflix. So I think they did some cross promotion stuff. That's all business side of things. That's just Netflix. Hey, let's roll out our own movie on a Netflix show. That's pretty much what they did. And so he was there. He was in the crowd. He dapped up Roman. Jey looked at him with the side eye. He dapped up Jimmy. And then he's playing around with the Ulafala, this new wooden Ulafala that Jacob Fatu has. And as soon as he's bouncing it up and down, Jacob just snaps, rips him out of the crowd, throws him in the ring, gives him some headbutts. He goes up top and he's about to deliver a splash. Here come all the officials. Come in. No, no, no. He hits the first splash. The crowd's going crazy. Roman then sees all of this. He's like, what the fuck is going on? So he hops up on the apron and he's like, Jacob. And he stops him for a second, and Jacob's just locking eyes with Roman. And Roman then hears the crowd chant one more time. And he says, you know what? Screw it. Get his ass. And he does it a second time, and the crowd goes absolutely crazy. That was pretty much the open of Monday Night Raw. It was very all over the place in a sense, but at the same time, it slowly developed more story. Roman is gaining trust in Jacob to actually go out and do his bidding. No questions, no remorse, just like a soldier. Just, I'm going to go out, no emotions, no feelings. I'm just going to do it because he's my tribal chief. Meanwhile, the Usos are feeling a type of way about this because they've been there longer. They've dealt with more. They know what they've been through. We all know the history between the Usos and Roman. And they feel slighted because now he's getting all the attention and reaping all the benefits. But yet they were there longer. They've been doing the work. And it's crazy because it's you look at a storyline as simple as that. But the way I just explained it, we've all at least been in some sort of situation like that, whether it's with family members where you have a mother or a father or, anything like that, where all of a sudden a newcomer comes in and all the attention gets taken away from you and you feel slighted. Or the other way around. You are the brand new introduced person somewhere else and all the attention's now on you versus all these other people, and now they feel a type of way about you. You can look at it in, the business world, whether it's at your job. I guarantee there's a lot of people that have had that where, oh, here comes this newcomer, came in, very nice job, but yet you've been there for 10, 5, 15, 20 years doing all the work. You've been there, done that. And now they get to reap the benefits for all your work, and you're supposed to just sit there and take it? No. So it's unique in a sense that they're doing some sort of different take on the Bloodline storyline, which I was hoping and praying that they would, because for a while, it honestly felt very slow and very redundant. And I was like, this is the last thing we need. This isn't, 6 years ago. We need something different. This is the start of something different. Now, how does that portray for the next couple of months / years? Because let's be real, this is a Bloodline storyline. This is going to last a very long time. How is that going to be different going into the summer, the fall, the winter, and then right into next year? If this doesn't eventually lead to a War Games match between the MFTs and the Bloodline, which then hopefully, if WWE is smart and depending if the cards align properly, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson gets involved and Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania in Saudi happens. That's just my bold prediction. I'm just going to throw out there. But I think if they're going to do it, they got to do it soon. Especially considering how Rock has looked the last couple of, times we've seen him. He definitely doesn't look like The Rock anymore. He, with all due respect, he doesn't look like he could compete in a ring anytime soon. So if they want to do it and get one last match out of him, this is your shot to do it. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye out for, but, anything can happen. The first match on Raw was the Queen of the Ring semifinals. We had Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel used a lot of her power during the majority of this match, but Io Sky rallied late and secured the win with a moonsault. And so Io Sky advances to the Queen of the Ring finals to face either Charlotte or Liv Morgan on the other side of that bracket. So either way, we're going to get a solid match out of this, but I'm thinking because, this Queen of the Ring tournament has been strictly based upon Judgment Day drama. I think it would only make sense to have Liv Morgan beat Charlotte Flair due to the help of Roxanne Perez and Dominic Mysterio to advance to the finals, and now she faces her friend, her partner, her sister, Raquel Rodriguez. And then this is where everything finally starts to boil over. That's just my prediction. Backstage segments between the Bloodline, and there were some ongoing interactions pretty much throughout the entire show with Roman, Jacob Fatu, and the Usos, which continued to build friction throughout the group, and Roman repeatedly emphasized that Jacob Fatu is very important in this faction. Because at the end of the day, they are family now. They've been family. He's always been looked at as the outsider. Now he will no longer be that outsider. And this is where we start to see Jacob reach his full potential. Seth Rollins, backstage vignette, talking about the story between him and Braun Breaker. And a match is set for Night of Champions. Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker inside of a steel cage. Does this mean it's going to be the end of the storyline? God, I hope so. Not that I'm saying that it's a bad rivalry, because realistically, it's not too bad, but at the same time, it feels lackluster. That's how I would describe Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. This story, this rivalry has felt lackluster. And the reason for that is, one, first and foremost, there were a lot of injuries. A lot of things halted this rivalry. If everybody stayed healthy and nobody got injured, we wouldn't even be in this situation to begin with. And secondly, it feels redundant and very much just textbook. That would be the way I would describe it. It's textbook. You got the Vision with Braun Breaker, who continually run rampage all over Seth Rollins, for Seth Rollins to then call for help from the Street Profits, who come back from injury as well. But there's history between him and the Profits. The Profits finally agree that, hey, this is for the greater good. Let's go take care of the Vision. Like, we saw this last year. Different characters, but we saw it last year. And honestly, I feel like it's going to fall victim again this year, just with different characters. But as far as the match goes, Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins inside of a steel cage is, and I'm hoping, very, very fun. Because on paper, you're like, okay, I can get down with this. Hopefully Seth Rollins can help build Braun Breaker up a little bit, because WWE has seemed to almost halt his momentum. I mean, you look at Braun Breaker last year at the Royal Rumble, not this past Royal Rumble, the last Royal Rumble. And you look at him now, and it's just like, it's almost like a night and day difference. I mean, you can tell he's still very over, and he's still very, very good. But WWE has very much taken a backseat to Braun Breaker as being that next guy. And almost there seems to be a couple question marks that still need answers to, which I'm not too concerned. He's a very young guy, and the future is so bright with him. But you can definitely tell that WWE has taken a backseat from him. So I'm hoping this match between Seth Rollins helps him get back up to where he needs to be. And honestly, at this rate, he couldn't afford to take a loss so that Seth Rollins can then move on to bigger and better things come SummerSlam. Chad Gable, he wrestled Rusev, and he wrestled his first match back on Raw. It was actually a very solid match, and it was very competitive, but Gable ended up defeating Rusev. I will say I'm not 100% sure how I feel about beating Rusev of all people, because you finally were taking some time to build up Rusev just for him to then take another loss. But at the same time, you got to look at Chad Gable's momentum ever since Mask vs. Mask, and it almost becomes null and void. Because it's like, you look at Chad Gable when he wrestled in the Mask vs. Mask match, and that pretty much catapulted him to where he's about to go. You know he's about to be that top mid-carder. He's coming for that spot. And wrestling a guy like Rusev, who WWE has very much taken time to almost seemingly build him up as that next competitor, him taking a loss, it does hurt his stock a little bit. But at the same time, I don't think it's nearly as much as a dip as people were expecting. And obviously, he's still intertwined with Ethan Page and Rey Mysterio and Penta. So realistically, his spot is secured for the time being. But I will say he cannot afford to take another loss. If we want to keep building these mid-carders, you can't have everybody take a loss. Like, you need jobbers on your roster for a reason. And that does not mean the tag division. It means you need undercard. And if you don't have them, bring some up from NXT. That's just my 2 cents on it. Charlotte Flair wrestled Roxanne Perez to eventually build towards the match between Liv Morgan and Charlotte on SmackDown this upcoming Friday. Charlotte ended up picking up the win after Roxanne attacked the arm throughout the majority of this match during her heat. The match itself was fine. It was nothing too crazy, but I do like the fact that they're at least trying to tell the storylines from a week-to-week basis, but at the same time, it almost seems as if we're seeing the same matches over and over and over again. That's just me personally. I don't like doing things that way. And also, I don't like seeing people wrestle twice in a week. But that's very, very nitpicky stuff. Like, it's honestly not that deep. And also considering this is the Queen of the Ring tournament, where you have both brands kind of intertwined, you got to do what you got to do. So I'm not going to make a huge, huge deal about it, but just nitpicking at this point. Javon Evans versus Austin Theory. Evans came out and cut a promo talking about his match coming up against Jey Uso in the semifinals for the King of the Ring tournament. And he is immediately interrupted by the Vision, being Austin Theory, and a returning Logan Paul. That's right, Logan Paul made his return on Monday, and he was all casted up and everything. Obviously, he's still not medically cleared, but he was at least out there. So it was cool to see Logan back on TV, I'm not going to lie. But the Vision tried to recruit Javon Evans into the Vision, and it just ended up going absolutely nowhere. For whatever reason, Logan and Austin Theory, the Vision as a group itself sucks. It's so bad. It's just like, you look at the potential of everybody in that group. Obviously, Braun Breaker's that guy. Bronson Reed, when he comes back, is that guy. Austin Theory, there's just so much potential I see in Austin Theory, and WWE time and time again just squanders it, and they don't know what to do with it. And obviously, I don't know if he's lacking something, but I mean, you look at where he was when he first came into WWE versus now, and you're just like, man, I mean, the kid's got so much everything. He's got charisma, he's got the look, he can wrestle. What is he missing? And I think he's missing that connection with the fans. Obviously, they love booing him, but there's still something missing. And I hate to be that guy, but it's just like, what exactly is it? If you guys know, throw it in the comments. But him and Theory actually had a very solid match, but it ended up being a disqualification when Braun Breaker speared Javon Evans out of midair, which looked kind of cool. The Street Profits then made the save, setting up a future tag team match between the factions. So like I said, this is just the same storyline that's just being drawn out at this point. Jacob Fatu continued to assert himself into the bloodline as that muscle, and he ended up attacking LA Knight. LA Knight came out, he cut a promo. Long story less long. He came out, cut a promo, said, I may have lost in the King of the Ring tournament to Jey Uso, but it was because of Solo Sikoa, is because of other bloodline stuff going on. There's a conspiracy against him that he just can't seem to understand. Jimmy Uso came out and he said, that's not what happened. But then Jey Uso immediately comes out and he says, no, that is exactly what happened. And now you need to acknowledge me as that one. And LA Knight says, you know what? You're right. I acknowledge that you can kiss my ass. And then the beatdown started, and pretty much Jey Uso was grounding and pounding him. But then LA Knight reversed back over and he shoved Jimmy, and Jimmy ended up super kicking him. And then that's when Jacob Fatu came in to make the save. Once LA Knight got back up, grabbed a steel chair, started beating the Usos, and then Jacob Fatu locked in the Tongan death grip on LA Knight. So clearly, LA Knight's going to be in this storyline with the bloodline, at least for the foreseeable future. I don't think he is going to end up reaping any benefits that come with it, sadly. And of course, there was a news report that came out saying that although LA Knight still has the momentum with the fans and he's resonating well, WWE's problem with him is he's too inconsistent. And I see where they're coming from. You want a guy who is very consistent, who you can trust to go out there and get the job done, whether it's a promo, whether it's just making an appearance, whether it's in the ring. consistency is everything. And we've talked about this on this actual podcast, on this channel, a couple months ago, where LA Knight, everybody was asking, where is LA Knight? Like, why are we not doing anything with LA Knight? And I said, I guarantee the reason he's been botching has somewhat to do with his confidence. When he feels that WWE is not trusting him with the ball, and he's going to do his best to go out there and try to make the most of said situation and of said storyline, you know, there's this distrust, there's this disdain. And when you're trying to keep all of your confidence exactly where it needs to be, but let's say your confidence is through the roof and you're like, this is where I feel like I should be. And then WWE says, no, you're kind of like down here. That's going to hurt your confidence. And when your confidence starts to go this way, so does your performance. So I really, honestly, I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's just like, come on, give the guy a shot. The only real thing we've seen of LA Knight was when he won the US title. And sadly, I don't think that was that great of a title reign. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the world, because he sure as hell does. He is a phenomenal talent. But at the same time, I feel like he should be treated better. And honestly, he should. And the fact that he hasn't been is very disrespectful. And then in the main event, this is the real talking point that we are going to really kind of just dive deep a little bit here. King of the Ring semifinals, Dominik Mysterio versus Oba Femi. The match itself started off very, very slow, but once Oba Femi took over, it was game over. JD McDonough still tried to get involved in the match with Dominik, trying to help him out, which he did for a split second, but then immediately got backfired. I will say JD is one hell of a fucking talent. That dude can sell his ass off, because holy shit, you look at how he sold for Oba Femi, absolute 10 out of 10. JD McDonough is that guy. Dominik is great too. However, we talked about this last week. Dominik Mysterio advancing into the semifinals didn't necessarily do a whole lot for him, but now it just made it a cakewalk for Oba Femi. And although we really wanted to see Braun Breaker versus Oba Femi, I feel like WWE is holding off on that because they want to give it to us on a bigger stage where it's going to mean more. At least that's the way I'm viewing it. Let's say if I had to wrestle a guy like, I don't know, I'll just throw this out there, Buddy Matthews, just because he's my personal favorite wrestler. If I knew I was wrestling Buddy Matthews, would I want it to be, at an outside show in front of like 12 people? No. No, you want it to be at the biggest stage of the state, biggest company, biggest everything. You want to balls to the wall. You don't want to have these spectacular matches when it doesn't really feel spectacular. And I feel like that's probably why WWE held off on giving us Braun Breaker versus Oba Femi. And also because they're scared to, have these top talents take losses. If I'm just being completely honest, that's what they're doing. They are afraid of having these marquee one-on-one matches that can pretty much, you don't know who's going to win. It's like, obviously, they want to save that for the PLEs to get more people to watch. Like, that's the goal. But at the same time, you're just like, come on. The match is right there. Just at least throw it out there. But that's not what they did. Oba Femi completely dog-walked Dominik Mysterio, and now he heads to the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. And after the match, he immediately calls out Brock Lesnar. He calls out Brock and says, whenever you're done being a coward and you're done being in hiding, I am going to absolutely demolish you. So we got to talk about that. Because now we are leading into a situation where we don't quite know where WWE wants to go. On one hand, you got Oba Femi, this guy who for sure has a giant rocket strapped to his back, and the company is feeling it. Absolutely feeling it. But considering the stipulation for what the King of the Ring tournament is, do you want to have Oba win the King of the Ring to go on to SummerSlam to wrestle either Roman Reigns or whoever ends up being champion on SmackDown with the WWE title? I feel like WWE would be stupid to not give it to Oba Femi. But then if that is the case, what do we do with Brock Lesnar? What is going to happen with Brock? Because you can't leave that story open. It's got to get closed. The series is tied 1-1. When and where do you do that match? And if Brock Lesnar is going to be done at SummerSlam, we talked about this last week. If he's going to be done at SummerSlam, you got to do it soon. And there's honestly not a whole lot of time between now and SummerSlam. There's a Saturday night's main event that's in New York, I believe. And then other than that, I don't even know if there is a July pay-per-view. I could be completely wrong in that. But if I remember correctly, I don't think there is a July pay-per-view. I think it's Night of Champions. There's a Saturday night's main event. And then it goes right into SummerSlam. So when do we have that final match? Do we have Oba Femi wrestle Brock Lesnar night 1 of SummerSlam and then wrestle the champion for night 2? I feel like that's overkill. It is overkill. You should not want to put your wrestlers in a situation where they have to do double duty. Granted, there has been a handful of times where it's worked. It worked with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30 during the height of the Yes Movement. It worked then. But that was an underdog story. This is not an underdog. Oba Femi is the head dog. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to have him wrestle Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. And if it does, he should lose the King of the Ring tournament. You got to have one substantial story. Do you want to really just go above and beyond with Oba Femi and have him retire Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam and then go on the next night to beat either Roman Reigns or Cody or Gunther or Sami? That's overkill. And I don't think WWE would be that stupid to do something like that. Can I see them doing it? Of course I can. I just hope they're smarter than that. So what happens? Obviously, that's Oba's side. On the other side of the tournament, we have Jey Uso and Javon Evans. Everybody right now wants Javon Evans to win. I am in that camp. I also want Javon Evans to win. I think he's been killing it. I think he's, just playing his role well. Obviously, he's still very young. He's still got a long ways to go. But considering where he's at right now, if you want to build your future, have him beat Jey Uso to advance to the finals to wrestle Oba Femi. There is history between Oba and Javon from NXT. And those matches were very, very good. They were very fun. They can very much recreate that at Night of Champions. I'm not doubting that in the slightest. But then, this is WWE we're talking about here. But if you have Jey Uso win, Jey Uso's a part of the biggest story right now with the Bloodline. Jey Uso's got all these other little mini stories going on because of it. Jey Uso, obviously, considering what Roman Reigns whispered into Jacob Fatu's ear because he's got one more mission yet, is Jacob Fatu going to help Jey Uso advance to the finals to wrestle Oba Femi? And then if so, is Jacob Fatu going to play a role in Jey Uso winning the King of the Ring tournament? Is Roman going to send out his henchmen to cost Oba Femi because Roman, in a sense, is quote-unquote scared? Is that what we're going to get at Night of Champions? I'm not ruling that idea out there because, like I said, this is WWE we're talking about. Do I want to see that? Fuck no. Absolutely not. Because like I said last week, Jey Uso, from an in-ring standpoint, he is not a good singles wrestler. He is a great tag wrestler. But when it comes to singles matches, he has a history of stinkers. And considering where WWE has been all year and where we want to go towards the end of the year, we can't afford stinkers at this point. I will give him credit. Ever since WrestleMania Night 2, we're not going to talk about Night 1. Night 1 is fucking awful. Night 2 till Clash in Italy, those were great/good shows. They weren't worth the $30 a month, but they were very, very good. If you want to keep that momentum rolling, you got to put your stars out there. You got to put your best wrestlers out there. This is people are paying their top dollar to watch your product. Give them what they fucking pay for. I don't think anybody's paying $30 a month to watch Jey Uso versus Oba Femi. God honest truth. Nobody's paying $30 a month to see Jey Uso beat Oba Femi due to bloodline interference, due to Brock Lesnar interference. And also, what does that make of everything that's going on in the WWE world if that happens? It makes it look like shit. Because now it's like, okay, we're going to halt Oba's momentum so that he can have his final match with Brock. I mean, we've seen it already. Granted, they gave us 2 really good matches, but, they're 8-minute matches. I know for a fact, if we got Oba versus Roman at SummerSlam, that shit would go crazy. But I'll be completely honest, I don't think they're going to do Oba versus Roman quite yet. I feel like they might hold off on it a little bit longer. Fingers crossed that, eventually we're going to get there. But with everything that's going on, there's so many different intertwining pieces. Seth Rollins is lurking. And especially if he beats Braun Breaker in that steel cage at Night of Champions, he is coming after Roman Reigns. They teased it already. I guarantee they could double down on it. And then, let's say Jey Uso wins and challenges Cody at SummerSlam. Then what? Are we going to have bloodline interference there too? We just can't keep running the same shit over and over and over and over again and expect different results. That's not how it works. So I'm genuinely curious to see where they end up going with all of this. But if this doesn't end with Oba Femi becoming King of the Ring, then I don't know what the fuck we're doing. Talk about just destroying any sort of credibility the King of the Ring has. We know Oba's that top guy, but because he has another story going on, especially a big one like Brock Lesnar's retirement, do we want to have him do double duty? That's my big thing. I don't think he needs to do double duty. He shouldn't have to do double duty. You should entrust your roster from the top all the way to the bottom to go out there and perform. You shouldn't have to rely on Oba Femi or your flavor of the month to go out there and do double duty. And just because you want to push him to the moon, what makes you think if you keep doing that, eventually the crowd is going to get sick and tired of it. We've seen it time and time again with so many different people. So am I worried? Yeah, I am worried. But at the same time, there's so many different outcomes and so many different scenarios that all of these things can go. I just hope WWE chooses the right decision. SmackDown. Cody Rhodes started the show. He spoke to Nick Aldis about Gunther's mystery stipulation for next week's title match. Jey Uso told Cody he plans to win the King of the Ring tournament. Obviously, we know where that happened, and that actually did happen. And he's coming for the WWE Championship. Cody encouraged him, but warned him to make sure it's his choice and not Roman's choice. Rhea Ripley, we have an update on Rhea. She is legitimately injured with a knee injury while she was doing an overseas tour in Europe, and they are still evaluating the severity of it. So we haven't really heard much of it this week, so I'm curious to see what the evaluation was. But yes, as of now, she has a knee injury and she is out. Thoughts and prayers to Rhea. I hope she recovers well. Queen of the Ring Fatal 4-Way. We had Charlotte versus Jade versus Sol Ruca versus Lyra Valkyria. Alexa Bliss ended up making her return and alongside Tiffany Stratton neutralized the baddies at ringside. And then the only really memorable match, or the only really memorable part of this match was when Jade Cargill's wig came off. That shit was funny. No offense. But Charlotte ended up forcing Lyra Valkyria to tap out with the figure eight to advance to the semifinals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. She will be wrestling Liv Morgan, I believe it is this upcoming Friday, for the spot to go to the finals. So we'll have to keep an eye on that for next week. Gunther told Nick Aldis backstage that he would personally choose a referee for next week's championship match against Cody Rhodes. Then we had Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and R-Truth in a segment. R-Truth continued his Judgment Day confusion, awkwardly interacting with Finn Balor and Damian Priest after Finn Balor's move over to SmackDown. This is not what I wanted to see when Finn Balor came over from Raw to SmackDown. And it's just like, God damn. Why is WWE ruining Finn Balor? Time and time again, they ruin him. And it just pisses me off. I look at Finn Balor as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Hot take, maybe. Sure. But it's just like, you look at where he was and what he's doing now. And he even showed a glimpse of what he can be against CM Punk. Him versus CM Punk this year was fucking phenomenal. He is a top guy. And he's being squandered and ruined. And it just makes me so mad. Paige and Brie Bella versus Fatal Influence. Henley and Laney Reed, despite the interference from JC Jane, ended up losing to Paige and Brie Bella, which is just like, why? I don't care, but why? Sami Zayn was backstage, and he spoke with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae before deciding to confront Cody Rhodes, and then that led right into a Danhausen lab comedy segment backstage between Angel Garza, Humberto, Matt Cardona, Kit Wilson, and The Miz, so pretty much all of the jobbers. Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes confrontation. This was easily the best part of SmackDown. Sami accused Cody of repeatedly taking advantage of his loyalty, and Cody Rhodes was not standing for it, and he fired back saying Sami's real issue is jealousy over the WWE Championship, and the confrontation pretty much escalated into both men slapping each other, and then Sami grabbed a steel chair, but chose not to act on it, and just walked away. Sami Zayn is treating himself as the last real good guy in WWE, which in his eyes, he still is a good guy, even though he's getting booed no matter what. Obviously, when he goes overseas, that's a little bit of a different story, but in the United States, he is being treated as the bad guy. even though he feels he's doing everything right. That's what makes a great heel. A heel that feels justified and feels that he is the good guy is the best heel. And Cody Rhodes, being the always fighting, ready to go babyface, actually showing a little bit of logic. He's showing a little bit of fire. But at the same time, I will say Cody Rhodes is growing stale. Granted, he's showing these little shades of gray, but we know what Cody can be as a bad guy, as a true heel in the business. And I know WWE is going to hold off as long as they can to pull that trigger, but by God, the day they pull that trigger will be a glorious day. And we said that numerous times on this show. It will be a glorious day when WWE turns Cody Rhodes heel. And honestly, Sami Zayn has been killing it. I know he has been getting a lot of slack, and he doesn't get nearly enough credit from what he deserves. But it's just like, God damn. Dude has actually been killing it. And after the confrontation, I hope Sami wins the title. Truthfully, I want to see Gunther win, to be fair. But at the same time, there's so much story going on between Cody and Sami that it's hard to deny at this point. It's more than what it is with Gunther. Which sucks, because now it's like, okay, what else do you do with Gunther? And that's where plan B, if you have Oba Femi win the King of the Ring, have Gunther be the one to retire Brock Lesnar. That obviously is not off the table. I don't want to be like, yeah, that ship has sailed. It really hasn't. But other than that, there's nothing else you can do with him. So that's why I was like, why don't you give Gunther the title and let him run with it? But obviously, we'll have to wait and see. I would love to see Sami finally get his day, but I feel like WWE might want to hold off until he's a babyface again, like a true babyface. But we'll have to wait and see. Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa had a segment backstage, and Jacob delivered a message from Roman Reigns asking Solo to come back, and Solo refused and told Roman to get him himself. AAA Cruiserweight Championship, Rey Fenix defeated Axiom to retain the title. This match was actually very, very good. I just wish people would have cared more. People forget how great Rey Fenix actually is, and it's shocking. Rey Fenix, when healthy and when booked properly, is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And I hope and pray that WWE eventually realizes this and starts using him in a better light. Gunther finally reveals the stipulation, and he said that he wants Sami Zayn to be the special guest referee, like we talked about before. Sami being the special guest referee, there's a lot of story between him and Cody, and it might end up costing him losing to Gunther, which, I mean, that, fits more of my narrative, but at the same time, it's just like Cody and Sami's history and story. I mean, it says more about those two competitors than it does the title. And I think getting Cody away from being that top guy for a while wouldn't hurt him in the slightest. He still is over as Rover. You know what I mean? Solo Sikoa warned Royce Keys backstage that the Bloodline would be manipulating the King of the Ring match in Jey Uso's favor and that he could use the help. Obviously, that's coming up here in a little bit. Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton versus the Baddies. And Michin and B-Fab ended up winning the match. Why? I don't fucking know. Kiana James and Julia's confrontation. Kiana accused Julia of betraying her, and Julia responded that Kiana has only been using her and ended up slapping her in the face. LA Knight came out and vowed to overcome the Bloodline's influence and to win the King of the Ring match. Obviously, we talked about it before. That's not what happened. And then the main event, we had the King of the Ring Fatal 4-Way, Jey Uso, LA Knight, Finn Balor, and Royce Keys. Jey Uso ended up beating LA Knight in the middle of the ring. Honestly, that was pretty much it for SmackDown. Outside of Cody, Sami, and Gunther, this show is very forgettable. It is very forgettable. That was the only thing I truly tuned in and was like, I had to put my phone down for a little bit to actually watch what was going on. Other than that, the show was very mid. It was very boring, very lifeless. On to AEW Dynamite. Chris Jericho opened the show. He called out Tommaso Ciampa. Jericho mocked him, calling him Tommy, and it led to a very heated exchange, and it eventually broke down into a fight that security had to break up. Obviously, we saw the week prior Tommaso Ciampa attacking Chris Jericho, but now let's get this feud up and rolling, and let's start, putting over Tommaso Ciampa more. Continental Championship, Jon Moxley versus Shane Taylor, two Ohio guys. I believe they were in Cincinnati on Dynamite, so two Ohio guys. Moxley ended up winning, and the Shane Taylor promotions ended up attacking after the match. All the Death Riders got involved, except for Will Ospreay, but because Will Ospreay is not a true Death Rider, he didn't feel the need to be involved. It was an alright segment. The match itself was solid too. When you come onto Dynamite, you got to just lock into the wrestling, which I love AEW wrestling. There's a few things I nitpick all the time. Obviously, I feel like the 1 counts are fucking stupid. I feel like they could use a lot more selling and making things feel like more versus actually just doing it for the sake of doing it. Outside of that, you come to Dynamite to watch wrestling. Kevin Knight and the Don Callis family. Kevin Knight addressed his recent alliance. Andrade then interrupted, making it clear he is also pursuing a world title opportunity. And that segment pretty much further established Kevin Knight's heel turn and the growing ambitions of Andrade, and as well as the tension between Andrade and Don Callis. Andrade, speaking of which, wrestled Orange Cassidy. It was a very, very good match, and Andrade ended up picking up a significant win over Orange Cassidy. Women's Owen Hart Cup quarterfinal, we had Maya World versus Sky Blue, and Maya World ended up scoring the upset win over Sky Blue. I was actually shocked, to say the least. I know next to nothing about Maya World, other than what I saw. But, she's solid. She's very, very solid. And I appreciate the upset win, in a sense. I'm not take it or leave it, I'm very indifferent. I like Sky Blue a lot. But, obviously this tournament has Mercedes written all over it. Obviously with her being the wild card. So it's just kind of nah. After that, it's just kind of you throw your arms up and you shrug, because for a fact Mercedes and Tekla is going to be a fun match. Mark Briscoe versus Pac. Mark ended up beating Pac in a very key victory, and it became important later in the night due to the involvement of MJF. Speaking of MJF, Team MJF versus Team Briscoe was announced, and the stipulation was revealed for Forbidden Door. If Mark Briscoe's team wins, he earns an AEW World Championship match against MJF. But if MJF wins, it's just bragging rights. So, I was watching this, and part of me is saying, this is the best we got for MJF right now. Really? Mark Briscoe? But at the same time, it's just you still got to keep him involved and doing things. So it's just kind of it's definitely beneath MJF. I will say that. But, you gotta give him something in the lull, because for a fact what's going to come next. Darby Allin returned and attacked Kevin Knight. Pretty much re-sparked that rivalry, because we have not seen Darby Allin since Kevin Knight turned heel at Double or Nothing, which was actually a very, very great heel turn. I said that in my Double or Nothing review. You guys can go check that out. And so Darby Allin came back, and pretty much he has his eye set on Kevin Knight, essentially meaning Darby Allin is going to wrestle him for the TNT title, and I'm assuming Darby Allin is going to end up regaining the TNT title. And then Kenny Omega and Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. issued a challenge to Kenny Omega for Forbidden Door, and then AEW was very quick to get that match graphic up, and pretty much this will be Omega and ZSJ's first singles meeting in nearly 8 years, which is crazy to think about. But you know for a fucking fact, that match is going to go stupid. It's going to be awesome. And then in the main event, we had the Men's Owen Hart Cup semifinal. We had Swerve Strickland versus Brody King. We all kind of knew where this was going, but Swerve Strickland ended up getting his win back over Brody King. And now Swerve will face Will Ospreay for the Owen final. And then this is where things get interesting, because you really can't go wrong with either decision, but this is fucking Wembley we're talking about, all in. This win for Will Ospreay, if that is what they're going to do, because I'm assuming that is what they're going to do, Swerve losing to Will is going to do wonders for Will, and at the same time, I don't think it's going to hurt Swerve nearly as much. And you know for a fact that match is going to go stupid. They've already met once in AEW, and that match was so fucking sweet. I guarantee they remake that magic again. So definitely something to keep an eye out for in the next couple of weeks. On to the news. There was only really one huge piece of news that I wanted to talk about, and that was the CM Punk news that pretty much just caught fire out of nowhere. There was speculation online that CM Punk was unhappy, that he was supposed to take a pay cut and he wasn't having it, and he's mad at WWE. He wants to go back to AEW. I mean, there were so many different fucking reports that came out about this that at this point I threw my hands up and I'm like, none of the shit makes any fucking sense. None of it. Last time we saw CM Punk, he said he was going to stay ready because you never know when an opportunity or a title match is going to fall from the sky. We haven't seen him in 2 months, so obviously fans started asking questions. Where's CM Punk? But then you think about it, CM Punk is in his late 40s. He needs a break. He's been going at it since his first injury. Remember that? Was that 2 years ago now? Almost 3 years ago? Where he tore his tricep? He had a killer feud between Drew McIntyre. Then he won the title. Then he had the killer feud with Seth Rollins. Then he won the title. And then he went on and wrestled Roman Reigns. Dude has been on a fucking tear for a minute. And he can't have a few months of a break? I mean, come on. You really think WWE wants to ruin one of their top guys and just consistently throw him out there when you got younger guys that can easily fill in for the time being? Like, what are we doing? But WWE sources reportedly said that Punk is simply taking time off after a busy run that indicated a WrestleMania main event program with a heavy media schedule. Like I said, that makes sense. I don't know where people got the notion from, oh, he's upset. Oh, he's mad about how AJ Lee was booked. No, I guarantee he fucking wasn't. I guarantee he was very happy with how she was booked, and he was very happy to be with his wife on the road. Like I said, none of that shit make any sense. Motherfuckers, you people, you marks, you guys are the fucking problem. Let the man fucking live. I mean, Jesus Christ. I get it, but at the same time, like, y'all, it's not that deep. Y'all make everything so deep. And the reports this week indicate that WWE still views Punk as a major star and has significant plans for him heading into SummerSlam. Duh, because chances are he's going to be intertwined with Cody Rhodes in some way, shape, or form. Final answer. I'm throwing that out there too. Obviously, within the next couple of weeks or so, once we get through Night of Champions, that's where we can really start having our conversations about what should SummerSlam look like. And I feel like we're going to be doing that either next week or the week after. But you know for a fact, CM Punk is going to be involved in SummerSlam in some way, shape, or form. And anybody that actually believed that Punk was going to take a pay cut from TKO, wrong. You thought he was going to leave? Wrong. You thought he was going to go to AEW again? No. The man is up there in age. The man's been running for a good year and a half, almost 2. Let the man take a few months off to recuperate. Fucking Jesus Christ. I was so mad about seeing all this. Because in my mind, I'm just like, the dude's old. He's great, but he's old. Your body doesn't recover as quick as it used to. You get burnt out quicker. Things are harder. Just let the man take a break. Shit. Come on. Like, y'all know better than that. Anyways. And honestly, other than that, and other than the Zack Sabre Jr. and Kenny Omega match being announced, other than obviously the King of the Ring stuff being talked about at a nauseating rate, and then also Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland being announced. Other than that, there really wasn't a whole lot of wrestling news, so I'm not going to dive into all the little stories. I know there's been talks about the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant trial now going private, which means Vince McMahon, in a sense, pretty much already won. I'm going to let that play out. I don't feel there's a need to dive into that quite yet. I want to see if it escalates a little bit and if there's any sort of resolution that comes from it. So before I even touch upon that, I'm just going to let it play out before I give my thoughts and opinions on it. I do want to talk about the USA advancing in the FIFA World Cup. They beat Paraguay this past Friday. I did watch and I did tune in. It was a very fun match. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge soccer fan. I do appreciate these big sports moments. FIFA is one of the biggest moments and biggest events in the world. Not just the country and not just for the sport, it's for the entire world. And I'll be honest, I was watching USA versus Paraguay, and it's like, yeah, I don't play soccer, I don't keep up with it, but I felt invested into what was going on. And also, shout out to Dan and Shay for fucking killing that national anthem. If you guys did not watch the actual soccer matchup or the football, it's not football, but if you guys actually watched it and you watched Dan and Shay's performance of the national anthem, if you guys watched it, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But if you didn't, go look up Dan and Shay national anthem. It is easily top 3 national anthems of all time. They crushed it. I legitimately felt like I wanted to run through a brick wall over a Dan and Shay performance, which is crazy. I do appreciate Dan and Shay. I do like a few of their songs, but it's definitely not my cup of tea. But I wanted to run through a fucking brick wall after hearing that national anthem. I was pumped. I was like, let's fucking do this shit. Just the inner athlete of me coming out. It was funny. But USA is going on, and they're going to be playing Australia on Friday. I'm going to be tuning in to watch that as well. Like I said, I'm not a huge soccer fan, but for whatever reason, it's the FIFA Cup and it's in the United States. Like, I'm going to actually pay attention and watch. So, go USA, I guess. But other than that, the only real newsworthy sports that really happened was the New York Knicks. I said last week on this show that I had the Spurs winning in 6. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. The New York Knicks, after 53 years of being titleless, finally get the job done. They beat the Spurs 4-1. And the story of this finals was resilience versus emergence. For at least, if you had to count the first halves of these games, the Spurs were easily like, oh yeah, they're just rocking and rolling. But the Knicks, no matter how far down they were, no matter how far behind they were, they always found a way back. Always. They never gave up. They always kept fighting back. They came back, I believe it was, what was that, game 3 or game 4? Down 29 at one point in the game. Came back and won the game by 1. Which, I mean, you watch the shit online. Holy cow. It's just like, how do you not want to see these guys win? And that's what I was thinking, too, because I'm like, I'm a Heat and a Bucks fan, right? Giannis is going to be gone. Miami has been very mid the past couple of years. I'm not afraid to say that. But it's just like, you watch that and you're like, how can you not root for the Knicks? Obviously, it's like you love Wemby. You want to see him succeed. Parts of you are just like, I was watching him specifically play, and I was just like, dude, you're 7'6" or 7'4", whatever the fuck. Get in the paint. Get in the paint and dominate. Why are you out there chucking threes? And then, you hear the stories after the fact. It's just like, he was so exhausted. He was so tired. And it's like, well, obviously, but this is the finals. You can't have excuses in the finals. And speaking of excuses in the finals, De'Aaron Fox. He has been easily the biggest talking point about why the Spurs possibly lost. Is because he completely choked. He was making stupid plays, shitty turnovers. Just, he's supposed to be the veteran on this team, but yet he's playing like a third grader out there. It's just like, as soon as the Spurs had some momentum, they lost it immediately. And then they immediately couldn't come back and regain that momentum. Obviously, the games stayed consistent and close, but it's just like, you look at the resilience of the New York Knicks and you're like, how can I not root for that? How can I not? And on top of that, it's just like, you feel for the Spurs fans, but honestly, if I was a Spurs fan, I wouldn't be holding my head down. I'd be raising it up. They're going to be back. They will be fine. They got a lot of young pieces, and this is a great learning experience. Sometimes your best experiences are when you take losses. In life, in sports, in wrestling, sometimes your biggest lessons are in losses. And now what you do is you learn from them and you come back stronger and better than ever. But for the Knicks, 53 years straight, no championships, no end goal in sight, and Jalen Brunson put all of that on his back with the help of OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, all of these pieces around him, and they just seem to have like that brotherhood. Everybody, they're just like, hey, I got you, you got me, let's do this shit. And by God, they got it done. And in doing that, New York is up in flames. Legitimately. Fucking fans going absolute crazy in the streets. Beer bottles being thrown everywhere. Things getting shattered. Things getting broken. NYPD cop cars getting stomped on. School buses getting set on fire. Those aren't true NBA fans. Those are just people that want a reason to riot. But that's what makes New York, New York, man. And congratulations to the New York Knicks for winning the title. And that actually is going to end this week's episode. So if you guys enjoyed it, like I said, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms. They will be in the description down below. If you guys want to go check out any other content, you guys can go click on that subscribe button, hop onto that page, go check out all the other episodes you might have missed, a couple live streams here and there. I will say, I will be going live this Saturday. That's right. This Saturday afternoon, I will be live. I will be on here. I'll be hanging out with you guys. So if you guys want to watch me play some games, you guys want to come check that out. It's going to be fun. It's a day where we get to shoot the shit, relax, and just talk to each other and just have some fun. So I hope you guys come to that. I hope you guys enjoy any of the content that I have here. And until episode 23, the Jordan episode, we will see you all next time. Peace out.
Summon the Spectre.